have 3 super space carriers out there, like aircraft carriers, that carry operational discs that have beam weapons. He even found the names of the 3 craft. They're christened with names like battleships. And he found the complement of discs that are aboard and who's managing them and a number of things he claimed in the Black project research he was doing. He's trying to deny that he saw this information now. We want to get him here to silence him because he apparently discovered something that we don't want our public to know. That we do have patrol craft out there of carrier size that carries a number of patrol discs aboard and can launch and recover them anytime and any place they want to. When they return to the surface to be serviced, their operational facilities are entirely underground, just like the deployed squadrons. All he found was names, that they were carrier craft, that they have a live aboard complement, that the names of the commanders are not known because those that enter these programs have their names changed and their families are notified that they were killed in a military accident and can't come back to an identity again.
What's your overall opinion then about us having a UFO fleet? Valid or?
Well, yeah, I think we have. I'm aware of 4 squadrons at least, and there may be more, and a squadron of aircraft, fighter aircraft, consists of 15 airframes. So I would guess that a squadron of discs must be 12 to 15 discs. The crew members are all picked out from the plebes that go into the Air Academy, and there are probably some taken from other academies too that are identified when they clear in as being unmarried, have no close relatives, they're orphans or have foster parents they're not making close contact with, not going to be missed. And once they get in the program and experience the perks and the benefits and the dangers of trying to get out of it, they're there forever. It's a career job and they don't change positions. They remain in the same job until they retire, and they work in it again as in civilian status after that.
How did you happen to meet Bill at Uhouse?
He came to me one time, a long time ago.
Back about what year?
Oh gosh, about 1990.
1990, and how many years did you keep in contact with him? Or are you still in contact?
I was in contact with him up till a year ago. I haven't heard from him. He may have died now. He was an older man.
What city was he living in?
He was living in Las Vegas the last I knew. He went back, he was from Kansas, and when he retired about 10 years ago, he wanted to go back to Kansas, to where he was raised, his boyhood hometown. And he and his wife began making plans to go back and look at property there. As soon as they made several telephone calls and began firming up their plans, his wife came down with a brain tumor. They took her to the hospital, military hospital, of course, there in the facility at Area 51, where they removed a tumor bigger than a golf ball. And that incapacitated her for a long time. And it took her a couple of years to recover. As soon as she got where she felt reasonably well again, they began the telephone calls once more, and then she comes down with a second brain tumor, fast-growing brain tumor. This time it was bigger than an orange when they took it out. And she never fully recovered from that. So they stayed out there in Vegas where she had to be treated regularly. She had to keep going back to the neurosurgeons. And he couldn't afford to do it anyplace else, so they had him captive there where he couldn't go anyplace, and they had him under control. And in my own mind, I'm not so sure that wasn't induced just to keep him there and keep him out of circulation. He was a simulator engineer, started out as a link trainer technician, and then as the science grew, he grew with it, going to the schools as it evolved, until he became a simulator technician and builder out there, building the machines to teach pilots to fly airplanes that had never been flown before. We began to assemble our new airplanes at Lancaster and take them out to Area 51 for testing. So that Bill Uhouse was involved in that also. and in the simulator training of the pilots.
After some experience flying in World War II and as the first generation of jets were being developed by the U.S. Air Force, Bill Uhouse gradually became involved in the development of jet simulators. These simulators were built alongside the jet prototypes and were exact replicas of the jet aircraft, from the cockpit down to the steps on the side of the plane. The simulators were programmed to allow the pilot who was training on the jet prototype simulator to experience anomalies that he would likely experience in the actual jet. Changes to a jet's production design would come into the engineers even up to the last days before coming off design, going into its initial production run, or even just before its test flights. Uhouse and crew would have to repeatedly modify the simulator's complicated and bulky electronics, instrumentation, and avionics to make the simulator remain identical to the jet prototype.
So S4 became a simulator facility to train, mostly to train pilots to fly our new aircraft, our new generation aircraft.
After nearly 5 years in jet simulation, Uhouse claimed that he was recruited into a very secret project. I didn't know what it was. We didn't know. The fellows I was with at the time, we had no idea what we were doing and exactly what we were going to build. Everything is compartmentalized. You have your electrical design, your mechanical, your instrumentation, and so forth. And if I had a question that might have been related to instrumentation or some electrical portion, I'd have to go back through my boss, and he'd have to go through various chains, and then I'd get the information back. Uhouse claimed that the strictest security was employed, which he labeled BS, humiliating, and degrading. When Uhouse decided to relocate to Las Vegas, security officers went through every possession in his home and then physically searched him, even looking over his skin to see if he had written down anything top secret on his body. The only thing they can't take away is what I've got up here, and he pointed to his head. That's the only thing. And I want to say again about the security, in this particular level of security and activity, it's a different type of security. You have permanent security officers that are assigned to you. I know I had one for 20 years. 20 years this guy was my security officer to monitor me. Uhouse testified at the 1993 International UFO Congress in Nevada that the secret project was specifically for gathering crashed extraterrestrial avionics that had been seized from private and public lands by the U.S. military from the late 1940s and early 50s, and taking the retrieved flying discs apart and back engineering the avionics. Uhouse named Roswell, Aztec, and Kingman as sites of these crash retrieval operations. The one at Kingman was more or less the one that came down where there were some live bodies. That particular one, I know about the flight deck and the instrumentation that they brought in. Uhouse explained that not even the best American pilot could fly an alien disc because of the vast differences in avionics and propulsion systems, along with vast differences in the language used in transmitting flight data to the pilot. What we were doing was taking the technology and transferring it into known technology with instruments that we are aware of that our pilots could use and people on Earth were familiar with.
They were trying to bridge the gap between the alien technology and ours so we could learn to operate their ships. And they never succeeded in bridging the gap. They could never convert the alien controls to toggles and switches and buttons. And so in 30 years of trying, they never succeeded in it. We saw solutions, but we couldn't reach those solutions by their method because we didn't understand their technology. However, knowing that a solution exists, we found other ways to some of these solutions, like solid-state electronics and laser technology and a number of things. The first thing they noticed is when they pulled the modules out of the panels, the modules continued to work. There's no wires, no lights or nothing. They could put them any place and they still operate. And then plug them back in and they function.
One of the first things that we were on was to join metal without nuts and bolts. That is to put two pieces of metal together without glue, nuts, bolts, or whatever. What we were going to do is make the aircraft lighter. Uhouse goes on to explain the details of this phase of mechanical engineering. We finally did it after about 3 or 4 years of putting these two pieces of steel together. Of course there were curvatures and so forth, and angles that we had to make to see